science questions for quite a few years. I retired in 2006. I taught chemistry and physics at Delphi High School. I'm still involved in science. I write the chemistry questions. Howard writes he's from DePaul, and he writes the physics questions, and I don't know where he is right now. It's not kind of in. Kirk Janlak writes biology questions, and Kirk isn't here today. They, scheduling type things and personal days and stuff. He's still teaching at Delphi, and his daughter's getting married on Saturday, so I think that has something to do with his time constraints. So they asked me to do the biology as well as the chemistry presentations here. Kirk has written the questions for biology, but they asked me to present to them. I'm very frustrated by this because I can hardly pronounce some of those names, and I think you guys are probably the same way. But and I think they've probably done it here, when they give you a topic for the year, they let teachers make suggestions as to what some of the ideas for that year would be. And I think it might be the Greek contribution to medicine and to biology. And so instead of ramping it up to current time, Kirk has really kind of stayed in the time period and drawn some very, very, as far as I can see, tough comparisons between them. So if it's okay with you, I'll go ahead and do his stuff first, because it's the most difficult for me, and I like to get it out of the way. Well, I'm honest here. So I'm going to, I wonder, can I have an assistant? Is there somebody who doesn't need to take notes? All of this stuff is on your desk, because I don't think I can read both places here. Thank you. Okay, this is the sources for the biology. Everybody see that?
So all of this is on our CD?
Right, all of it's on your CD. Okay, the big thing that is important here is that the textbooks that you have in your classroom are not going to be adequate. The biology textbooks are not going to be adequate for this competition and the material in the competition. The library, we have an awesome librarian who's able to find us historical texts and things like that. So you might want to check with your library resource person who can get some of these references for you. But Kirk suggests that you consult government sources such as the National Library of Medicine or the National Institutes of Health to introduce your students to some of the personalities and the major ideas. He does say, normally we tell the kids not to go to Wikipedia, but he says that in this case, this year's topics are pretty well referenced. And then the internal links are valuable. So he's been there, and he trusts Wikipedia in there.
He's at the emergency room. He didn't say why. So I apologize. I just got to tell you, he threw our office and then texted me and said that Howard is at the Greencastle emergency room, but I'm hoping it's not for him. I guess I don't feel good no matter who it is.
Did he send a set of transparencies?
No.
Okay, I will try to tap into that too.
I apologize. That we keep control of. I think these are the same outreach.
Okay, well,
I'm sorry.
tapping into you first right now. We'll really get the chemistry. Okay, so he says there, if your students find a discrepancy, rely on the medical information, the Gov sites, or the National Institutes of Health sites, because those will be the most reliable sites. So there's many sites devoted to ancient Greece and to the history of medicine. Avoid those that were generated by students as projects. Okay. up there on some of the things, because they're the ones that are most likely to be have misinformation in them. Okay, here's the outline that he's. This is the concepts as he's divided them. The first Roman numeral is the general biology, zoology, and botany, with Aristotle and the great chain of being. The general features or organizations of the scale, the primates of each major division, in comparison to later forms of classification. And I think he goes, the number 2 below is the Aristotelian one, with the links to the history of the modern classification. And phylogenetics, when I looked it up, because I didn't know what it meant, I think that's a fancy word for evolution. I think it's tied to evolution, doesn't mean we're in biology. But how taxonomy and phylogenetics classify organisms today. So you may want to look at that word phylogenetics as well. Okay. Thank you. Kyle is going to, whatever emergency that Howard has had, he's going to try to get him to videotape his presentation at the pause and do it independently, have it videotaped, and then he will make it available to all of you guys. He'll either send you an email with a link to where it can be found, or actually send you a disc or something. So rest assured there will be information on the biology, or on the physics part. Okay. What I have done, I tried to do here, is I tried to give, if you would put those up, I tried to match the questions as I felt from practice questions. Like that first question we had was about the chain of being. Okay, here's a practice question that Kirk has written that, in my estimation, fits with that chain of being topic. So, the highest number within a division is the primate, but there's the ultimate, the penultimate, the elemental, all of those words. When Kirk writes questions, as I think Howard and I try to do too, we try to make the words that we use for distractors as reasonable terms they might have heard off here someplace when they're doing science. So all of those words have to do with science in some way, but they don't have, only primate there is the one that fits that question. In the second thing with the Aristotle part, the second one, the ancients classified organisms according to such things as their method of reproduction, whether or not they contain blood, and the nature of the substance which they seem to be composed. Today's organisms are placed into various groups and classified predominantly by. Okay, so he's taken the old thing and brought it into what we do today. Okay, so and that's the morphology and genetic material in the organism. I think you can tell after, this is probably his third year writing questions, that if you've been around that long, you probably also can follow his pattern of thinking. I know people can pretty much tell which questions I've written. Okay. Okay, this would be, if you go back to the one with the B on it. That the bottom part there maps. But I think that the bottom part here, Theophrastus, is that what you have to say? Theophrastus. Introductory ideas in botany and botanical classification, identification of major written works, the relationship to others in Aristotle. Yeah, and then, that question, I pulled that question out of the practice questions. And number 3 would go with part B. So sometimes considered the father of botany. This person was the first to create a systematization of the plant world. You know, so that goes back to the outline. Okay. Thank you. I really appreciate this, Larry. Okay. So medicine, he's looking basically at 3 different people: Aristotle, Galen, and Hippocrates. With Aristotle, teleological nature is science. The early Aristotelian ideas in physiology and the early ideas in zoology and botany. With Hippocrates, the theory of humorism and the 4 main humors, and how they're associated with the 4 elements, and then the temperaments, which are, I don't even know what they are, but fits better under Galen, but yeah, it's short. Shouldn't be in the process here. I didn't write this. In the time of Hippocrates, the Hippocratic Oath and concept of medical ethics, the main schools of medical thought and practice around the time of Hippocrates, those 2 schools, thought, and then Galen, contributions to medicine and anatomy and physiology. So here's some practice questions. Number 4 on that practice. Yeah, that was Galen. Yeah, the commonality among all the early Greek physicians is their twin interests in, that should be medicine and philosophy. Are replacing the Y. So that's trying to relate all of them. And then I think I have 10 questions here.
Everybody got this?
Just 8 questions. The temperament, sanguine, was thought of as being sociable and even pleasure-seeking, although they might have trouble sticking to tasks if they were no longer fun. Sounds like kids. With respect to the humor, sanguine was generally associated with blood. So I guess the humors would be, those must be the 4 humors they were talking about: phlegm, black bile, yellow bile, and blood. Okay. Number 6 here. And you notice how long these questions are. So your students will have a long time to think as the reader reads the question during the contest. This one deals with medical ethics, and that is the Hippocratic Oath. I don't know whether those other ones are real things or not. They might be. But I would certainly have my students look them up and see what each of those had to say, because I'm knowing Kirk, those are probably real things that he's put in there. So, and they'd be good distractors. But very, very long, detailed questions in biology. If you think, here's number 7. Let me see this one. This one takes the whole transparency by itself.